Hello everyone, I'm Holly Agar, author of the novel Out of Touch, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to land your dream literary agent. If you haven't done so already, I recommend that you watch my previous video on making sure that your manuscript is ready to send to agents, because there's no point in beginning the querying process if your book is not quite up to scratch. If you've already done so, and you think it's absolutely ready to go, then here we can begin to talk about sending your manuscript out to literary agents, which is a very exciting thing. So let's begin. You've written your book and you revised it a million times. You've had feedback from beta readers and you're confident that it's ready to send off. After you've celebrated this massive achievement, it's time to take the next step and to make a list of agents that you want to query. So how do you go about this process? I recommend that you start making a list of your favorite books that fit into the same genre as you're writing. Then you need to do some research to find out which literary agents represent those authors so that you can include them on your list of agents to query. Another thing that I did when I was looking at appropriate agents to approach is I looked through the database querytracker.com. I used this database because there was information about a range of agents. I could do a search tab, and I looked at what books these agents were representing and how big their client lists were. But you can also just go on the literary agency websites, and that's probably where you can find the most up-to-date information on the agents and on the client list that they have. You can see whether or not they're open or closed to queries, and that would be really useful because some of them might be, for instance, on maternity leave. Some of them might have a full list and aren't currently looking, and so you don't want to waste your submission on an agent who isn't even interested or open to submissions. A few literary agencies that I can recommend are Darley Anderson Literary Agency, Curtis Brown, Conville and Walsh, The Good Agency, who represent writers whose voices are often marginalized. There's Eve White, Peter Fraser Dunlop, Blake Friedman, Felicity Bryan Associates, Madeline Milburn, Kasky Mushins. There's so many different amazing literary agencies in the UK. That was a list of UK agencies. And you really do have to look for the agent within the agency that best fits for your book and who are best suited to represent you and the genre of book that you've written. It can be a really good idea to follow literary agents on Twitter to get a sense of their interests and to see what they're looking for, but do not stalk them, okay? If you've sent an agent a submission, don't be that person who is sending them private messages, reminding them that you're waiting there in their slush pile and you're really eager for them to discover you. Don't do that. If anything, these kind of messages will turn the agent off from you as a potential future client. Something that I find really useful, or I found really useful when I was querying agents, is to look at the client list that they represent. Specifically here, I'm looking at the size of their client list, of an agent's client list. Are their writers very established? Or is this an agent who's starting up? And the size of an agent's list is important to consider because if they're starting out, for instance, they might be more keen to take on new talent. When I was querying, I sent my manuscript to a range of agents, some who were new in the game, others with sort of a mid-sized list of 15 to 20 clients, others who were more established. I never queried agents who were part of the same agency. You don't do that. You submit to one agent at one agency. And so you really do have to make your choices count. So what next? You've made a list of 20 to 30 agents that are suitable for your book, agents that you'd really love to work with. Then comes writing the infamous query letter. What is the query letter? It's basically what you put into the body of the email that you send to agents. It's what they see first from you, apart from the subject heading of your email. You want to make sure that this letter is spot on. without any typos, because it would be so heartbreaking for you if you put all this effort into writing a book and an agent is turned off because they read your query letter and it's full of mistakes, it's full of typos, it's just not a good representation of who you are. So what do you put in a query letter? On my website at holleagar.com, under the heading Publishing Tips, I've uploaded an example of a query letter for you to have a look at. I know that I really work well with examples, so you can have a look at it, the letter I've uploaded there, and see if there's anything you can use. So you want your query letter to feel personal to the agent, like you've taken the time and done your research to find that they're a good match for you. So you absolutely want to address them by name, not dear sir or madam, okay? You want to make sure that you spell their name correctly as well. You should start by giving basic information about your book. So for example, you can say, Dear Jane Doe, whatever their name is, please accept this manuscript submission for my debut novel, Out of Touch, and then in brackets you can put the word length. So let's say 77,000 words. It's then a good idea to mention why you've queried this particular agent. Here you can talk about perhaps the list of authors that they represent and why you admire their work. You can talk about perhaps how that agent champions their clients on Twitter and how you really appreciate that. Something to show that you aren't just sending out these query letters indiscriminately, okay? So to show that you have chosen to submit to this particular agent because you think they're great. In the next paragraph, you want to talk briefly about your book in a way that entices the agent to want to read more. So it might feel a bit like a book blurb that you read at the back of a book cover. It has to tell us something about the character and what's driving the plot forward. You want the agent to be curious about your book so that you don't want to give away your whole story and the ending. That's what you would do in the synopsis. You just want them to feel interested, to want to read more. You want to also compare your style to other authors here, so agents can easily place you. You can explain very briefly what makes your work similar to the authors that you've referenced. So perhaps it's the theme or the topic that you're writing about. Be honest. If your work has been compared to, let's say, Anne Tyler, I mean, that would be amazing, then mention that the style, the humor, the observations are in keeping with the works by so-and-so, okay? It's also a good idea that you include any previous achievements in terms of writing achievements in your query letter. Don't worry if you don't have a list of publications or if you have never placed in a competition or taken a course before. You don't absolutely have to have a record of previous work in creative writing. It's not necessary for an agent to take you on. But if you have got some things to include, like publications of short stories or being shortlisted for a competition or having taken a course in creative writing, then absolutely put that in your query letter. If you're struggling in this area and you do want to write something personal about yourself, talk about what's inspired you to write, who your favorite authors are, why you've written this book. Those facts are equally interesting and important to a literary agent. End the letter in a very simple way by saying that you hope to hear from the agent again soon, and then sincerely, all the best, and then your name. Now you've got a list of your literary agents that you want to query. You've got your query letter at this point ready. Each agency will have their own specifications in terms of what they're looking for in a query package. They might say, for instance, that they want only the first 3 chapters of your book or the first 15,000 words. They might ask that your synopsis be only 1 page. They might say that they want you to send your query by post, You need to follow each agent's guidelines exactly as they're specified. You don't want your submission to be discarded simply because you didn't follow instructions. It can be easy here to blame literary agents for being ruthless, but every day their inboxes are flooded with query letters, with queries and submissions to look over. They also have their own clients to manage, to prepare submissions to send off to publishers. They're very, very busy people, so you want to make it difficult for them to say no to you, and that means follow the instructions, give yourself the best chance possible of making it through the slush pile. Another aspect that you want to consider in your query package is the synopsis. I won't go into too much detail here. It should be a full summary of your book, and it should include information about key characters. It should explain about the plot, what's driving the plot forward, the themes, how the story ends. You want to give us this big spoilers away here. If you do want me to make a video about writing a synopsis for your query package, do get in touch and ask me your questions and I'll put something together. Now, at this point, you've got your list of 20 to 30 agents to query. You've checked the guidelines of each agent that you want to submit to. You've got your query letter and your synopsis ready. What do? I recommend that you start by submitting to agents in waves of 3 to 6. Do not query all 20 or 30 agents at once. Why not? Because it's very possible that there is a mistake that you've made in your query package. If you're not getting any requests for full manuscripts and just automatic rejections, then perhaps you want to look over your manuscript again, at your query letter again. There could be a mistake that's putting agents off, or your manuscript might still be at an early drafting stage and not quite ready yet. So you want to hold back on sending to all the agents that you've shortlisted and submit instead in waves of 3 to 6 agents at a time. What happens next? You will likely get some rejections. Some might be form rejections and others might be more personal and specific to your work. And if you do get specific feedback, that's amazing. But if you don't, absolutely do not contact the agent to ask them why they haven't taken your work forward. Don't challenge them on their decision. They're very busy people, as I've said before, and it's not going to end well for you. So you just want to move on, and rejection is a major part of the writing process. I've been rejected at many different stages in my writing career and will continue to probably face rejection, and that is just a fact of what it's like to be a writer. It's very possible that at this stage an agent gets back to you and requests the full manuscript because they loved the partial, what you've sent to them. And this is where it gets really exciting for you. Absolutely celebrate, you've made it through this major hurdle, but also I advise caution because there's a chance that even at this stage, when the agent has your full manuscript, you might still get rejected, and that is just a fact. So be excited that your manuscript is strong at the start, but don't pin all your hopes on this. The thing to do is to get in touch with the other agents that you have queried and to tell them that an agent has requested a full manuscript. And that will automatically place your submission it will move it to the top of their reading list, okay? Because they respect their colleagues, other agents in the profession. They will think, oh, this must be something special, I'm going to get reading. And that really increases your chances of having more than one offer from a literary agent. A word of caution here. Do not lie about getting full requests or getting offers of representation if it's not the case. Agents talk. It's a very small world, actually. And if they find out that you've been lying, then they certainly won't want to work with you. And that's not the kind of reputation you want in the literary world. It's a relationship based on trust between yourself and the literary agent, and you want to make sure that you start off on the right foot. If you have received an offer of representation, that's great. Get in touch with all the other agents that you've queried to let them know that you've received this offer of representation. Do not accept the offer if you are not 100% sure. Let them know that you need a bit of time, a week perhaps, in making this decision. Ask if you can meet with the literary agents, and whenever possible, do meet with the agents before you decide to accept their offer of representation. It's very possible that you'll get more than one offer of representation. And again, I really advise that you go out and meet the agents if it's possible for you to do so, even through video conferencing, because you want to go with the agent that really gets your work, that you get a good vibe from, that really seems passionate, an agent that will champion your work and really, really try hard to sell it. So do take the time here in making the decision. Don't rush the process. Landing your dream agent is a big topic, and I just wanted to give you a general overview today. I hope you found it useful. Thank you for joining me, and as always, be kind to yourself.